Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster, Tarpley in Washington, D.C. We take this opportunity to send our best wishes for a speedy recovery to our friend Louis DuPont Smith, who is in the hospital this week with an ailment that we trust he's going to be able to deal with as he's dealt with other challenges in his life. So best wishes to Louis DuPont Smith and his family. Best wishes for a speedy recovery and a complete recovery. Now, the Chinese rating agency, right? The U.S. has Fitch and Moody's and Standard & Poor's, criminal enterprises all. But now we have Dadong Global Credit Rating Company Limited, D-A-G-O-G-N-G, Dagong. Dagong Global Credit Rating Company Limited, the only Chinese agency that gives sovereign ratings, has been quoted by the Global Times. Global Times, this is like semi-official Chinese international newspaper. They say the U.S. is already defaulting. And the quote is, in our opinion, the United States has already been defaulting, said, let's see, says Guan Jiazhong, Guanjianzhong, Guan Jiazhong, president of Dagong Global Credit Rating Company Limited. He says Washington has already defaulted on its loans by allowing the dollar to weaken against other currencies, eroding the wealth of creditors, including China. And you can see what's behind that, right? Do you want to be subjected to a currency board with foreigners who will determine your spending? Do you want to go under a kind of Big Mac with foreign countries being involved? If you don't, drop the free market lunacy, get away from this free enterprise, Austrian Chicago poison, get back to the American system and the New Deal, the best and most effective economic system we've ever had. Put aside ideology. The word this week from the reactionaries is, don't politicize economic decisions. Dear reactionaries, all economic decisions are inherently political. And when you say don't politicize economics, that is one of the most outrageously political statements that you can make. The 19th century, and whether you were left-wing or right-wing, whether you were Marx or whether you were Ricardo or whoever you were, you knew at least that the thing that you were dealing with was, and is, political economy. It's called political economy for a reason. It's inherently political. There is another economy. There's the economy of the cavemen, of Aleut, back in the hunting and gathering, foraging, old Stone Age, when there is no state. Yes, there you have economics. It's called foraging, hunting and gathering, and the cavemen. But as soon as you have a state, as soon as there's any form of government, even a tribe, then that is going to become political economy, and deal with it and make the most of it. Now, we've got Standard & Poor's, Fitch and Moody's threatening, in effect, to junkify the U.S. Treasury bonds if a deal is not reached on the debt ceiling and the question of default. And as I've said again, these are criminal enterprises. These people should be trembling in the prisoner's dock as they hear their sentences, their multi-decade sentences, for their corruption and what they did to their subscribers and to governments, state governments, local governments, back in 2007, 2008, when they lied until the very last minute about the solvency of something like AIG or Lehman Brothers or Bear or others. They should not be making judgments on the U.S. government. An arm of the U.S. government should be making judgments on them. And that is the paradigm of our situation. If the national states do not put the zombie banks into receivership, the zombie banks will find a way to put the national states into receivership. So choose. You want to have a government that can be susceptible to popular movements, or do you want the dictatorship of the zombie banks? And if you say, I don't want big government, you're telling me that you want the zombie bank. So good luck with that. Now, in terms of the immediate situation, the downturn that we're seeing, a lot of people in Wall Street are upset because this guy Tepper, T-E-P-P-E-R, Tepper says there will not be a QE3 In other words, another large credit infusion, but that it may not be the case. The Wall Street guys, of course, are screaming for a QE3, and it may not be coming. The El Arian of PIMCO, El Arian, working over there with Bill Gross at PIMCO, says that the effect of QE2 has been to overinflate China and Brazil, and that those governments are now forced to apply the brakes. They're forced to throttle and strangle their own economic development in order to deal with this huge infusion of inflation that the U.S. has inflicted on them. And therefore, what we see is the QE2 is revealed as economic warfare. Well, we knew that about a year ago, didn't we? The idea being that when you have QE2, you issue $600 billion or more of hot money. That hot money immediately flees the United States. Doesn't stay. It's not invested in plant and equipment by job creators. What a myth. It's invested in derivatives, if anything, here at home, the Timberwolf and Abacus over at Goldman Sachs. But otherwise, it goes direct to the hottest speculative market overseas, and if that's China and Brazil, that's where it went. It simply shows that hot money cannot lead to a recovery in your country, and if you insist on issuing hot money, you will destroy your own currency because it will flee. We have a statement by the head of the New York Federal Reserve in which he says there should not be another round of QE, quantitative easing. This is Dudley of the New York Fed, the flagship of the system. Dudley, again, most likely more powerful than Bernanke by a mile. Dudley says the United States now needs structural adjustment. Now, that's when you want to tremble, because what they mean by structural adjustment is what we would call in realistic English genocidal austerity. It means destroy any unions, destroy the social safety net, destroy unemployment benefits, drive everybody into abject poverty. IMF shock therapy is what that means. That's what structural adjustment was coined to cover. So IMF shock therapy for the United States, says Dudley of the New York Fed. And we have the Bilderbergers meeting in St. Moritz over in Switzerland, and they're undoubtedly scheming how to impose more genocidal austerity on the member countries here, U.S., Japan, and Europe in particular. But perhaps they're also discussing what's supposed to happen on the 26th of June at the Olympia Stadium in Berlin. We'll be back in a minute.